IP. And today we're going to cover looking at your karma reports in iDig. So we're going to cover a variety of different topics today, basically just giving you a nice overview of what you can do with your karma results data. All right, so I'm just going to start by jumping right over to iDig. All right, so when I'm on my homepage for iDig, just note that all of my reports will show up on this All tab right here. Anything that's karma related will appear under the karma reports folder. And you'll see that within that there's 3 different sections: draft, display, and karma review. If I want to get a more narrowed down look at my reports, you can click on these additional tabs up here. So if I just want to look at my karma reports, I can click right here and it will narrow that list down for me. If you're looking at this list as a distributor and you're thinking, oh, I don't have any of those draft reports or any of those display reports, these 2 will only appear if you are running what we consider a standard display or a standard draft survey. It does require a particular type of setup, so just reach out to us if you're not seeing those. Everyone should be able to see this last section at the bottom, which is this group of 5 reports. If you're a user and not seeing all 5, again, reach out to us. It might be a setting that we need to turn on for you to make sure that you are seeing all 5 options. Okay, so today we're just going to dig in, and we're going to start right at the top by talking about our draft surveys. So market share is probably going to be your most powerful report when it comes to looking at the draft data that you've collected in the field. So when your reps are out there, they're not only collecting your tap handles, but they're also collecting competitive tap handles. So this is going to be the report that you're going to run to help you look at that and how you're doing compared to your competitors. So you'll notice it has a stock group of columns already built in, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add my dimensions. So I'm going to start by running this at a very high level dimension, my market type. Just like your other iDig reports, you can see I have a variety of different ways I can look at this data. These are all of my account dimensions available. I also can look at it by product, which we'll do in a minute, and then also a few different karma dimensions that are available, and then there's my supervisor and sales rep. So I'm just going to select my market type so you can see the report. So here's my market type going down here. And then this is what it's going to show me. So I can see across my bars and taverns, 27 of they account for 27 of the total accounts, which is about 34% of my total accounts. In my bars and taverns, I have 63% of the market share. We have 130 total handles, which is just about 30% of my total handles that I have out in the market. 82 are my handles and 48 are competitive. This is our test environment, so we're not getting any keg sales, but of course for you, you will see your 60 days of kegs and your sales here. Of course, sales only appear for any products that you sell. We don't include sales for anything that's competitive. So right away, I can see that most of my handles are at my bars and restaurants. So I have a total of 437 handles. I've got about 260 across my bars and restaurants. So I know the bulk of my handles are living there. So you can already identify some opportunities. If my market share across my bars and my restaurants was down, I know this is a good target area to start targeting to get my percentage up. The other thing this is going to clearly show me is, of my number of accounts, how many do these make up? So you can see the bulk of my accounts are also in my bars and restaurants. Okay, so this is just one way I can view my report. Those of you who don't know, I can quick edit my dimensions by hitting my little flat button here, and I'm just going to do that, and we're going to run this by a different dimension. Let's run it by my sales rep. So now I can see for my whole team how they're doing across their accounts. So this would be nice. Let's say I want to put a target out for my sales reps where I want to say you want to get at least 40% market share. I can clearly see which one of my reps are meeting that 40% market share and which ones need a little bit of help. So nice roll up to just see how many accounts they're working with, what their market share percentage, and how their handles split out. Just like other iDig reports, I can always drill down. So if I want to see exactly what retail accounts this rep is working with, I can click right on their name and drill down and see the retail accounts. So now I can see for Rep 101 exactly the layout of each retail account and how they're doing with their handles within each account. If I wanted to get even more detail, I could drill down and see the actual tap handles from the retail account as well. So a lot of that same functionality that you're used to in iDig all applies to your Karma reports in the same way. So to get back to my main report, once I've drilled down, I just hit this green arrow to go back to my main screen. Another way that people like running this report is by what we call draft surveys. So on your standard draft and display type reports, you'll see this dimension under products called draft surveys. And all it is the list of products that have been surveyed. So anytime you're looking to see the actual information by products, just use that draft survey dimension. And you'll see here, it's going to show me that Bud Light is the leader in my market with 38 accounts. Coors Light is trailing not by much with 32, and then Bud has 22 accounts, Light 17. And I'll even be able to see the total number of handles for each one. So you'll notice, like a lot of, in this case, the market share for a brand is always going to be, is it mine or is it competitive? You'll see a couple of them, though, have these different 8.3% or 20% for Corona. You might see a number like this if you carry a product, let's say in one territory that you service but not in another. So sometimes for you it's a competitor and other times it's not. This market share does factor that in based on how your territories are set up in beverage on the web. But for most of them, you'll see they're either 100% or zero because they're yours or they're competitive. So this is another way to look. I have a lot of customers that use this to spot trends as IPAs were coming back into trend. You can easily click here and kind of see what brands are selling in your market and in your area. Okay? So this report's really great. Just know what I've shown you here, which is playing with your dimensions, changing your dimensions. These are things that you're going to be able to do across any of the reports that I'm going to show you today. So just keep that in mind as we walk through the remainder of the reports.
And you go back in the back, I'll have the gate open for you. I'll open it
Okay,
right now.
so next I'm going to show you what we call an account survey. So as you can see, market share and account survey are both available under display as well, and they're set up pretty much the same way. So basically, account survey is your detailed view. So you can see this actually is defaulting to two selected dimensions where I've got my retail account and then my product. So this one I can just run as is, and it will show me the details. So I can see here each retail account and exactly what's on tap. So at my 212 Tavern, I've got my Angry Orchard Strawberry. So I know what's there. Survey date is the column that's going to tell me the last time it was surveyed. So this was last surveyed back in April. But then I'm going to get some sales information for anything that's mine. Again, this is our test environment, so we don't have sales coming through. But for you, you will definitely see for anything that's part of your catalog, what you've done for kegs the last 60 days, how many weeks the product has been ordered, days since the first order, and your weekly velocity. You'll get some really good sales information for anything that's tagged as part of your catalog. So this is your detail view. I know a lot of customers will take this detail and they might filter it by a supervisor. So if I'm a supervisor, I might go ahead and filter this report by myself, so I'm only looking at the accounts that I service and I work with. So just know if I'm filtering on a dimension, all I have to do is when I add it, click right on it. Oh, sorry, here we go, supervisor. I can choose my supervisor, and once I do that, you'll notice it's no longer showing as a dimension because I don't need it to be showing. I can simply choose it, and then that will filter my report only to accounts to that supervisor. Okay. So you'll notice with this report that it's saying right now that my dates are using what we call most recent surveys. So this is unique to Karma. And basically what it's saying is I'm going to go out, I'm going to look for the last survey that was taken at any given retail account. So that's why you see here, I've got 212 Tavern was surveyed back in April, 43rd Street Pub was back in January, and then I have Applebee's here in August of 2015. So this one was a while ago. And that means the last time we surveyed Applebee's was in 2015, which was a while ago. So that's your default of most recent, and it will go back as far as the last time a survey was taken. Some customers like using this. If you want to edit this date range, you can click over here on the column. And you'll notice there's also a most recent within a date range. So a lot of customers will use this if they're running their draft survey or their display survey every week, every month. This will allow you to kind of only grab most recent within the last month. So in this case, I might even say the last quarter is the last time I want to select information. And now you'll see it's actually telling me you had nothing from this last quarter. So play with those dates if you want to kind of limit and not grab anything that's too old. So just go ahead and hit that edit button and it'll let you play with most recent within a date range. All right. The last couple reports on the draft are all about isolating opportunities. So you will see detailed tap changes. This one's a good one. It basically will track if you're taking your survey every month or every other month. This is something that you can use to track any changes that have happened inside the account. So you can see just in the last 5 months, I've only had one change, which was at the spot. And I can see that we did have VIP Ginger Ale on tap, which was replaced with VIP Double IPA. And it will actually, the system will automatically tag it to tell me what happened. So there's 4 different characteristics that might happen. One is a swap for their tap, and this means it was a competitor tap, and they just swapped out for another competitive tap. So there's no gain here. It's just a swap between their handles. So there's also a version of this for when I swap out one of my handles for something else in my catalog. And then we, of course, have a gain or a loss, okay? So this is really only good if you're running your surveys every month or every other month, and you can kind of track those losses and see what happens. The last report is called Sold Unsold, and this works a lot like the unsold report, if you're familiar with that in your sales reports. So there is unsold here. It's kind of the same idea. You're basically comparing 2 products and saying, show me any account that has, you know, one brand on tap that doesn't have another. Okay, so here's an example of 2 type competing things. As a distributor, I have Long Trail Ale as part of my catalog, and Sam Adams is my big competitor. So in this case, I'm looking for any account that does not have Long Trail on tap that does have Sam Adams. This is a very targeted list of accounts. You can see I have 5 accounts that meet this criteria. So at this point, as a manager, you might be saying, okay, what am I going to do with these 5 accounts? I know there's 5 accounts. I want my reps to target them, and I want them to try to swap that Sam Adams handle for Long Trail. So within Karma, you can always within iDig, you can always grab an account list and assign a survey right from iDig. So there's 2 different ways. One is I can click this Select Accounts button, and I can go ahead and choose, let's say I only wanted to target these 3 accounts, and then come back up to my actions and create a task from here. So that's one way. The other way is if I just want to grab all of them, I can go like I'm going to create a selection set. That will grab all of my accounts, and I can create a task from here. So both of those lead to the same screen here. It's just a matter of preference of which one you'd like to use. So from here, I can go ahead and assign a task right out. So I'm going to call up point of distribution, and I'm going to say try and get long trail on tap. So this is where you really have to communicate to your reps what you want them to do. They don't know what report you're running. They don't know what you've analyzed or what you've gathered from this information. So you really want to try and communicate to your reps what's going on at this point. So I'm going to give them till the end of the month to complete this. And down here, I'm going to put in some instructions. So I'll say this account has Sam on tap and not long trail. Try and fill it in. So you'll notice, like, as I'm typing, this little box doesn't seem to have a lot of space. No big deal. I can grab it on the corner there and just expand it to give myself a little bit more space to type in. And then I'm going to go ahead and assign it to who I want it to go to. So especially a list like this where I have more than one, using my sales pointer is going to save me a lot of time. And what it's going to do is grab the responsible rep for each one of these accounts and assign the task to them. So it could be 5 different reps. It could be, rep 5 has 2 of these accounts. But either way, our system's going to automatically know who it belongs to and assign it. I also have this option here to make it required if I want. I'm going to go ahead and create that task, and it will go out. And now the next time my reps go into any one of these 5 accounts, they'll know to try and sell in long trail. Okay, so these features do not only appear in Karma reports, but they will also appear in your standard iDig reports. So any place where you're running a report by retail account, just know you always have the option to assign a survey out right from there. All right, so now we've covered draft, just to give you a little overview. We also have display. So we have a market share report as well under display. Now I know many of you might be going, yeah, Linda, but I'm actually not doing competitive stuff for my displays. I'm only doing things that apply to me. And that's where I would say a lot of these reports are stock, but that doesn't mean it might not be useful to you. Because just know that any one of these, you'll see we've got total cases, our cases versus their cases, my 15-day CEs, and then even my number of displays or number of locations. But this report is still very useful. If I go to the edit button here and click over to my columns, if I'm not doing competitive, all I would have to do is remove anything that looks competitive or anything that might not apply to me. So I could say, let's remove a few of these, and then we'll go ahead and run this report by sales rep, for example. And now I'm still getting good information here where I'm getting my sales rep, how many accounts they hit, their market share, their total cases of display, their 15-day CEs, how many displays they had, and how many brands were part of that. So in this case, I might still want to hide that market share column. No big deal. I can just get rid of that one too. But you get the idea. I'm still getting some nice information about my displays here. So don't discount really any of the reports that you might see here, because you can play with them. You can hide columns that don't apply to you. Okay. So we also have an account survey. So similar to the draft one, that's your detailed view where you're going to get display quantity, 15-day CEs, and a little bit more about sales. The star player, I would say under display, is what we call our ad execution report. This does require a specific setup because we're measuring opportunities. If you are currently not running ad tracker, but you like the look of this report that I'm going to show you, just reach out to us and we can kind of walk you through how this is set up. But this basically takes your display data to the next level. And what it's doing is you'll see we have 2 different colors and 2 different sections. So one is my primary opportunity, and then over here is my secondary. And it's basically telling me inside each account and in each chain store how did we do in terms of our execution? Did we get 85% displays? Did we get 60%? And measuring those. So the big difference here between what our traditional report used to be and what our current report is the opportunities. So it's this column right here. So you'll see right here we've got how many accounts we surveyed versus how many opportunities versus how many displays. So our old reports used to really only look at accounts surveyed versus displays or how many accounts you hit. So if I had only hit 52 accounts and I got 52 displays, we would have said, excellent, you got 100% execution rate. And then some of our customers came to us and said, yeah, but like, what about all those accounts I missed? What about the ones that I didn't even set foot in? And that's really what this opportunity is. So this opportunity goes out, looks at the chain store, looks at the item, and says, if my rep was eligible to buy product for that chain store in that account, we would expect there to be a display. So it generates, our system automatically generates this number and says, actually you have 82 accounts where you should have had a display, and therefore your actual execution is 85%. So this calculation right here is what makes the ad tracker so precise and so accurate in measuring how you really did with your displays out in the field. And any one of these, like my Keystone Light, I can click on it, drill down, look at the retail accounts, and easily analyze and see which accounts we got displays in and which ones we didn't. So I can go right over to my displays and say, where are the places where we got 0? And quickly see all those accounts where we missed our opportunity for our Keystone Light. So these accounts were not surveyed, but we know that they should have had a display up. This is a very powerful report to get that accurate percentage for your display information. All right, so the last group is all about the mixed bag of anything that's not standardized. So if you've created your own form that's customized with your own questions and you want to know how to run those reports, you can do that all from this bottom section. So Karma Results is going to be your main home base. There's the first option is your custom columns. So I would say about every 3 or 4 times for this webinar, I do a specialized half an hour just on custom columns because it really is that advanced. But if you're familiar with custom columns, inside iDig, it's a similar idea. You can build your own report using the karma measures that exist down here at the bottom. So you can start building out your columns and measuring anything that you would be interested in measuring. So that's the first option. And I'd say if you're more interested in that, watch out for the webinar here where we do a targeted half an hour. For most of you though, you're gonna come in and use what we call the simple survey. This is a great starting point. And we're gonna go ahead and use most recent. So when I choose simple survey and I choose to move on, it will ask me to choose a form. So at this point, we're going to choose our account notebook. And now that I've chosen my form, you'll notice what it does is auto load every question on my form into the report. So these are all the different questions that I asked. And the other thing it will do is automatically apply the measure that makes the most sense for this question. So for example, my question was take a picture. So what the measure is doing is automatically going to tell me the number of pictures that were taken. Follow-up required is a yes or no question. So it's automatically assigned it a yes or no measure to split those out for me. Follow-up date, automatically assign my date measure. So it's a smart little report that will kind of build out a custom columns report based on how you have your survey set up. So this one's really easy. I can just go ahead and click it and view it once I've selected my form. Here's my question, along with my total number of photos, comments, information that ended up moving here. So just know if I want to ever change a measure, like for example, maybe I don't want percent yes or no, maybe I want to count the number. I can click right on this column and it will pop up and allow me to change my measure. So if you're not sure what a lot of these measures mean, there are definitions by clicking right here. But the main thing about karma measures is they're always tied to what we call the answer type in karma. So these first few are more overarching, kind of big picture, you know, how many accounts did we hit total, how many tasks were completed, the total number of answers. These are your big picture. Once you get down here into the lower sections, these are all related to the type of question. So if I have a question where my reps are entering a number, so maybe it's case quantity, number of tap handles, anything like that, I might use these numeric measures, which allow me to add them all together, get an average, or get the largest or the smallest number. If I have them entering pricing information, I might use a pricing measure to either add the pricing, get an average price, the max or the min price. Here are my yes or no measures. So in this case, I'm actually going to click to change this. So I get number of yes, and then hold control down to select more than one, number of no. So these all apply to any question where you might be asking a yes or no. Couple picture measures, which are related to if you've asked them to take a picture, and then scoring, date, time, and then number of surveyed brands. So a lot of the time, think of your measures as tied to what type of question you're asking and if you can use them. And then these ones at the top are all just about that big picture, you know, what's the total number of accounts that we hit. So I'm gonna update that, so I'm seeing number of yes and number of no instead. And now you can see I'm getting a 3 to 5 count, so I know exactly how many we hit. So that simple survey is a really great place to start. And just know, even from a simple survey, if I hit an edit button, I have all that functionality of custom columns where I can add another karma column, I can add a sales column. If anything is numeric, I can calculate on it or even add blank. So it's almost like the start of a custom columns report. So let's say, for example, I wanted to add an additional column here where I wanted to just get the total number of account visits. And then I can drag this to the top because I wanted some big picture information of how many accounts did we hit. So now I'm getting that nice total of everything on the page is 41 accounts, and then here's the breakdown of how everything went. Okay, so great starting point there. All right, so last I'm going to talk a little bit about our recaps and working with photos. So that's kind of what's down here at the bottom. Weekly activity and task progress are both ways for you to see what your reps have been up to, how they're doing with completing their surveys. So these are both kind of status type reports. But working with photos or exporting photos are going to happen through your recap or your browse photos. So browse photos is a home-based report that's basically just going to show you all your photos in one view. This is our test environment, so I apologize for all the pictures of our meeting room. But I think you get the idea. You can view all my photos right here. I have the option up here to select filters, so I can choose my date range. And then on dimensions, I can use dimensions as filters. So this works if you're filtering by, you'll notice a lot of different things, different forms. So if I just want to look at my display photos, I can even filter by brands or items, chain stores, sales reps, supervisors. So you'll notice this list is a little bit more limited than your larger dimension list, but it does get you a lot of the big picture things that you might need to filter your photos down by. Once I've filtered my list, just know from here I can double click, make a photo bigger, browse by clicking through here to look at my different photos. And then I can also save a view or export to two different layouts, either a recap or a standard export. So a recap, as you saw, can be started from my Browse Photos section, but I can also open it here and just go ahead and create a recap from here. So just like some of my other reports, you'll notice it's asking me to select a form first. So if I select my account visit, you'll notice once I select that, the questions will load right over here in the corner for me to work with. So lots of options for me to include different things on the recap. And there's also 3 different layout views for your recap. So I always say advanced photo is the one you want to use for all of your display stuff. So anytime you're doing a photo along with brands and case quantities and things like that, use your advanced photo. And pretty much anything else that may include photos or doesn't will fall into the recap category. I can use my dimensions here. Again, they're just filters. So this is very much like Browse Photos, where the dimensions only act as a filter. I can choose how my pages break, how they sort, and even the format. Here's my standard date options. And then with my questions, I can choose to include or exclude questions and even filter on a question and how it was answered. So I could say only show me things that were a customer service visit, and it would go ahead and filter those for me. So I'm just going to show you a couple examples of the layout. This one here is what we call the standard recap. So that's this first option. Standard recap, anytime I include photos, they always appear at the top, and then my answers appear underneath. So here's a standard display. All 3 photos appear at the top with my information underneath. My advanced photo recap. So this is the second style. You'll notice my photo appears on the left, and beside it is all the information only related to that photo. So this photo has Coors Light, Light, and Bud Light in it, and then there's my case quantities. The advanced photo is also great if you have to export things to your supplier. I can filter this by just Anheuser-Busch products, and it would just pull out the photos that have Bud Light in them and only put the information related to case quantities related to any Anheuser-Busch products here. So the Light and the Coors Light would be hidden, and they would not see those case quantities. On the advanced photo, there's also an additional option that's called ungrouped. And this one basically drops the case quantity information and just gives me the essentials about it with the photo, my floor display, who took it, and my date. And you'll see in this case, if I was doing scores, it would add a score there. There's a lot of different layouts in the recap. Basically, I would always say, play with them a little bit, try a few different ones and see which one might work for you. And of course, if you have any questions, just reach out to us and we can even make recommendations of the best way to run your recap. All right, so that concludes our overview today of your Karma iDig reports. As usual, if you have any questions, I will be hanging out for a few minutes after, so you can type any questions in the chat window. But as usual, you can email myself or Stephen Shaw at karmasupport@btinfo.com, and we'd be happy to help you build your next Karma report. All right, thanks, everybody.